The sound woke me up. It wasn't loud, but it was the kind of noise only a father hears. The muffled sound of something being dragged, followed by the scraping of dirt. It was 4 a.m. What was my son, Noah, doing in the backyard at this hour? I got out of bed quietly. I went to the window and peeked through the curtain. It was him. The moonlight illuminated his back, hunched over as he dug into the ground. My heart jumped into my throat. He looked so fragile, so small, but what he was doing was a secret I wasn't ready to uncover. Noah was a good kid, quiet, yes, a bit reserved, but focused. College was our goal, our future. But there he was, with his own 2 hands, digging a hole to hide something. It was a rusted metal box he pushed with his foot, covering it with dirt in a hurry. Then he walked away as if he'd never been there, and I felt the first pang of panic. That boy wasn't my son. Or, if he was, I didn't truly know him. After he went inside, my body moved on its own. I went to the backyard, barefoot, feeling the wet grass. I found the spot. The dirt was fresh, soft. I grabbed a small gardening spade and started to dig. Fear consumed me. With every inch I went deeper into the earth. What was my son hiding? A gun? Money? And that's when I found it. A dirty folder of documents and a flash drive. I went back inside, covered in dirt and with a heavy weight in my chest. That's when my life turned upside down. This wasn't just a secret. It was evidence of a crime. And when I saw the flash drive, I understood why he had begged me never to dig it up. If this story has touched you so far, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us continue to bring stories like this. And let me know where you're listening to this story from. I could barely breathe. My hands were shaking as I inserted the flash drive into my computer, and I was sure that, in a matter of seconds, I wouldn't have my son back anymore. The file belonged to Officer Daniel Hughes. I knew him. He was the cop who had pulled my son over a month ago. The same one who told me not to worry, that he just wanted to scare the kid because one day these boys go astray. And I, foolishly, believed him. He gave me Noah's car back, made a joke about the marijuana that was never found, and told me to relax. And I did. The file was a nightmare, every page a stab in the gut, a complete report on Hughes's dirty career. The cop, who sold himself as a hero to the community, was a parasite. He would plant evidence, fabricate charges. He targeted boys like my son, young black men from low-income neighborhoods, to fill his quotas and fabricate arrests that boosted his career. He was the reason so many young men disappeared, the reason so many families fell apart. I felt my stomach churn with disgust. The flash drive was the final nail in the coffin. I double-clicked it, and a video started to play. It was surveillance footage. I saw Hughes in his car, on the phone. The audio was crystal clear, and I could hear every word. He was talking to a high-ranking city politician, a big shot who sold himself as a civil rights champion. They were running a scheme to embezzle funds from social programs, and Hughes was the enforcer. He used the boys' criminal records to blackmail them, forcing them to take the fall for crimes they didn't commit. I felt a wave of hatred, something I had never experienced before. I looked at my son sleeping in the next room. He looked so innocent, so vulnerable. And I understood why he had closed himself off lately, why he had isolated himself. That cop didn't just threaten his future, he destroyed the innocence my son still had. I knew I couldn't just let this go. I couldn't risk it. I couldn't turn in the evidence because I didn't know who to trust. I had to expose that man. But how? How could a 50-year-old electrician take down an entire system? I had no powerful friends, no money, just my son, my fear, and a flash drive that had the power to destroy our lives or to save them. I looked at the flash drive in my hand. That small, seemingly harmless object was, in fact, a ticking time bomb, and I didn't know if I was brave enough to detonate it. That night was a living hell. I couldn't sleep. With every noise, every shadow, I thought about Hughes and what he would do if he found out I had the evidence. I had to tell Noah. But what would I say? Son, the cop who harassed you is a criminal, and now I have what could destroy us? The idea seemed absurd. When Noah came down for breakfast, his expression was that of a normal teenager. A bit sleepy, maybe, but without the weight of the world on his shoulders. I, however, was broken. My voice faltered when I called him. Noah, we need to talk. He sat at the table, quiet. I placed the folder and the flash drive in front of him. His face twisted in terror. His eyes widened, and he tried to get up, but I stopped him. What is that, Dad? He whispered. It's your life. Yours and 10 other boys. It's your freedom. You didn't trust me enough to tell me, but I trust you to know what to do with this. He looked at the table, at the documents, at the flash drive. Tears started rolling down his face. I tried to protect you, Dad. I tried to protect myself. I couldn't tell you. They said if I did, something would happen to us. Who are they, Noah? What is going on? He told me everything. About the group he had at school, about the dossier they were putting together, about the fear of being discovered. They were smart, idealistic kids, but they were also scared. Noah was the youngest in the group and the last one to get caught. They used him to blackmail the others. He was forced to take the fall for marijuana possession, so one of his friends wouldn't be framed for a crime he didn't commit. The flash drive was the final piece of evidence, and he had to hide it in case something happened. I hugged him tight. I hugged him like I never had before. I felt his pain, his vulnerability, his fear. I wasn't just his father, but his protector, and I had failed. I should have listened. I should have noticed. I should have fought for him from the beginning. We both cried. Together. A scene I never thought I would live to see. But from that moment on, our pain turned into a force. A force to fight, a force to seek justice. That flash drive was no longer a burden, but our weapon. And that's when I knew I couldn't do this alone, that I needed someone who understood the rules of the game. I knew I needed the one person who could fight against a dirty cop and a corrupt politician. I knew I needed Lena, and deep down, I knew she wouldn't refuse to help. Lena Baker didn't answer the first call, not the second either. On the third, her voice sounded tired but firm. Mark, is that you? You know I only answer after hours, but did something happen? Lena, I need you. Now, I need you to come here. It's about Noah. There was a silence on the other end of the line. I heard her breath. She knew I only reached out to her in extreme cases. Her voice softened. I'm on my way. She arrived in 40 minutes. She came inside, took off her blazer, and looked at me. My face was swollen. My hair was a mess. Noah was sitting on the couch, his eyes red. She didn't ask anything. She just looked at us and waited. I grabbed the folder and the flash drive and placed them on the coffee table. She took the objects with the delicacy of someone holding something precious yet dangerous. Lena read everything, every page, every word. She watched the videos, listened to the audios. Her face, which was usually a mask of calm, contorted into an expression of shock and horror. She looked at Noah, her eyes full of tears, and then at me with a look of pure fury. Not fury at me, but fury at the injustice. Mark, this is much bigger than you think, she whispered. This is a conspiracy. It's a cop and a politician. If we turn this over to the police, they'll make the evidence disappear. They'll come after us. They'll destroy our lives. I already knew that, but hearing it from her, an experienced lawyer, made it all feel more real. So, what do? Do we just let it go? Do we let them win? Lena closed the folder and put it in her bag. She looked at us. Her voice, now, was that of a war strategist. No, we're not going to let them, but we're not going to play their game. We're going to play ours. And what's our game? We're going to expose the truth to the world. We'll use the media. We'll use the internet. We'll use public opinion as our weapon. We're not going to the police station. We're going to the newspaper. I felt a shiver down my spine. It was a crazy idea, but the only one that made sense. It was the only one that gave us a chance. I looked at Noah. He was quiet, but I could see hope in his eyes. The hope that, finally, someone would fight for him. The hope that, finally, justice would be served. And for him, I would do anything. "We're with you, Lena," I said, feeling a strength I hadn't felt in a long time. "What do we have to do?" Lena's plan was risky, but it worked perfectly. She contacted Julia Chen, an investigative journalist known for not being afraid to take on power. Julia analyzed the dossier and was shocked. She knew the story was a bombshell. In less than 24 hours, her article was live, with the videos and audios from the flash drive. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Social media exploded. The names of Daniel Hughes and the corrupt politician were everywhere. The entire city turned against them. The local press, which had been silent before, started digging deeper. The story of Noah and of all the other boys became living proof that the system was broken. I was home with Noah, trying to process the news avalanche. With every alert on my phone, I felt a mix of pride and fear. Pride for my son and for doing the right thing, and fear of what Hughes would do. I knew he wouldn't give up. He was a cornered animal, and I was right. The doorbell rang. It was late at night. I told Noah to stay in his room and went to answer. It was Hughes. He wasn't in uniform, but in civilian clothes. His face was red, his eyes were those of a madman. He tried to get in, but I stopped him. "What did you do, Mark? You destroyed my life. I'm going to finish you and your little boy." The hatred in his voice was palpable. I felt a chill, but I refused to give in. I yelled for him to leave. He tried to push me, but with years of training as an electrician, I defended myself and pushed him out of the house. He took out his phone and called someone, shouting threats. I heard my name and Noah's. He was threatening me. I called Lena. She told me not to worry, that she had already taken steps to protect us. The police arrived in less than 5 minutes, but not to arrest me. They were FBI agents. They cuffed Hughes, who was screaming and struggling. I watched in shock as the man who had terrified and threatened my son was taken away. I didn't feel revenge, but relief. A relief I hadn't felt in a long time. Noah came out of the room and looked at me. He wasn't crying. He wasn't scared. He was standing there, his fists clenched. He looked at me, and I knew that in that moment, our lives had changed. We won. We fought for justice, and justice was served. But the victory came with a price. We would never be the same, and I didn't know if that was a good or a bad thing. The community came together. Noah's case opened the door for other victims. Suddenly, parents who were afraid to speak out about the injustices their children suffered began to come forward. The dossier that Noah helped create became the basis for a federal investigation that ended the corruption of Hughes and all his accomplices. The politician lost his career. Hughes was arrested and prosecuted. The ending wasn't like in the movies. It wasn't a big celebration. It was a moment of silence, of healing. The time we lost because of fear, we regained with love and attention. Noah and I together went to talks and rallies, not as heroes, but as people who suffered and overcame. We told our story, and our story became the voice of many. Lena's help was fundamental. She helped us create a nonprofit to fight for police reform, to help young people who, like Noah, were victims of a corrupt system. She didn't charge us a dime. She said her reward was justice and the sparkle in the eyes of a boy who had regained hope. I looked at my son. He was no longer that scared kid I saw digging in the dirt. He was a man who fought for himself and his community. Our life was no longer about running from fear, but about fighting for justice. I no longer felt afraid. I no longer felt rage. I felt gratitude. Gratitude for Lena, for Noah, for everyone who helped us, and for myself, who had the courage to dig up the truth. The scream I let out that day, the scream that made me get out of bed, wasn't one of despair. It was a battle cry, a cry of love, a cry for justice, and I regret nothing. If this story moved you, comment here with the word justice. Tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there right now. I really want to know how far our stories are reaching.